It's time for the playlist party with your host, 𝗥𝗢𝗕.
Hi guys, good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's Rob Ryan. I'm back for my second playlist party, and if Jules will have me, there's another 19 scheduled. But it's great to be back, and I think any drummer trying to I'm not joking either trying to pick like I said last time, a few songs in an hour or so is very difficult. But anyway, this is my second, and I'm going to throw a few more tracks at you guys, and remember, you can get involved. There's a chat to my left or my right, and please feel free to comment. And all my friends on Instagram and Facebook, I've been nagging you rotten for the last week to come and join us and pass comment, good or bad, about my musical choices, and get involved with the drum chat. And if you're not a drummer, still get involved anyway, though I guess you wouldn't be here. Anyway, so here we are. So I hope you're all well and safe. We're in another lockdown, of course, and we hope and we pray that the vaccines are going to sort all this out, and we can get back to some normality. We can get back to work as musicians, to clubs and pubs and theatres and arenas or stadiums, whatever, sort of band or artist you work for. So, my thoughts are with you all, and we can do it. We can hang in tough. We can do this. A few more months to go, guys, maybe a year, but we can do it. Right. Okay. So again, thank you for joining me. I've got 5 or 6 tracks today that again were so hard to nail down. But they're a little part of me, and I'm sure some of you will recognize some of the tracks, and they'll be a part of you. And as I say, if you want to comment, please comment in the box. That's what it's there for. As I say, good or bad, even if you don't like my hat, that's all good. So, Jules, could we have the first one up, please? Hi, Matt. Okay, so I stumbled across this album, I guess sometime in 2002. A friend of mine, who I'll mention a few times probably tonight, a great keyboard player from Swindon, which is near to where I live, called Gary Bamford, introduced me to this record. He was listening to Martin, Medeski and Wood, who were doing a lot of records at that time with John Schofield, who of course releases this 𝗥𝗢𝗕 album. And he said to me, Rob, you've got to listen to this record, if only for one track, Jungle Fiction, because it's going to blow your tiny mind. And so I hurried down to HMV and bought it and shoved it in the car and went straight to this track. And he was right. It blew me away. It was one of those moments where, and I mentioned them in the last show, where I just stop and time stops and people are passing you, but you're just listening. And I remember being in the car park just listening to this song, thinking, blimey, I probably should leave because I've paid for my ticket and I don't want to pay twice. And I just sat there and I listened and listened, and I'd not heard anything like it before. Now, this is before Jojo Mayer and Thomas Lang and those kind of cats come on the scene doing the sort of live drum and bass thing. They may have been around, but I hadn't really heard of those guys at that point. And Adam Deachew's the drummer. I really don't know much about either. To be honest with you, this album was just sealed in a time capsule for me. And I probably should do some more research to see what he's done since. It seems silly to say this, but as I say, we're just picking moments in time and certain records and tunes. So this is when this one hit me. It was just like, my God, my whole world changed. I had to go out and buy a little jungle snare drum made by a certain German company because I was playing their drums at that time. And I was playing on that and trying to get these licks, but we'll press play and then I'll kind of talk over it as we go. Thanks, Jules. So from the get-go, check it out. Oh. Those little press rolls, amazing. How many hours did I spend in the shed working on those? Check out this drum break. Here it comes. Check this. Yeah. Rocking out. Here we go again. Bring it down. But he's still got that intensity, even though he's playing down, like a jazz sensibility. And of course, there's a lot of kind of jazz in Alan's playing, and a lot of funk in there as well, but with this new kind of drum and bass jungle vibe kicking off. And here we go again. Beautiful, so fresh. And like most of the drummers I'm going to talk about tonight, you know, it's almost irrelevant what style of music they play. One thing is quite clear, is that they've got really good hands and feet with good technique. They've learned good technique. You don't have to be a jazz drummer or a Latin drummer or a rock drummer to learn technique. We can all learn technique and then just put it in various pockets and styles as we go. Nice. Real jazz sensibility in his comping behind John Schofield, listening, getting involved, two-way conversation, almost a bit like Elvin Jones and John Coltrane back in the day. That kind of sparring, really, really healthy musical sparring. But never loses that drive, that focus. This is great. Oh, I love that. Doing that in real time. Holding the cymbal and the bass drum and coming down like a DJ would mix something, like he did with those press rolls. Ga, 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 ga. I mean, now everyone's kind of doing it, but then not many people were out on the scene, you know. This is fierce coming up. Back to the head. Very kind of jazz. Head solo, head out. But as I say, I heard that and I just saw a new direction for me, you know, very selfishly. I thought I've got to get in on this because I was playing jazz already and I was playing funk already, and of course rock and stuff and commercial music I was on, because you are from a young age. But this just took me into a different place, and Gary started writing tunes that, you know, were kind of inspired by this. And he did a session not long after this where I took my little jungle snare from maybe doing some of the jazz tunes with him on his album, I ended up doing the drum and bass tunes and the jungle tunes. And a great drummer called Scott Hammond from Bristol, who tours with Jethro Tull when they're touring, did more of the straight ahead stuff, you know, because he's an amazing drummer and could do that in his sleep, you know. So he said, right, you do the jungle stuff, Scott does the funky jazzy stuff, we've got an album. Thanks, Jules, that's brilliant. And I didn't shoot it forward in the end because it was just too good to listen to. It's been a long time since I heard it. Anyone else out there know the album? Please comment. Make some comments as we go. Yeah, as I say, I've got some notes here, but to read through all these notes on everything would take all day. But, you know, one of the major points I wanted to talk about was just that technique thing. And I think I mentioned it a little bit last time. You know, it's facility, and then what you do with it from there that matters. So, you know, forget the J word for jazz, forget the F word for funk and all that business. Just look at them as they're just styles. And once you can play well, you've got dynamics, you've got grace notes, you know, you've got power, you've got grace in your playing. You can literally do, you know, absolutely anything. And from there, of course, I did find Jojo Mayer and those kind of guys, and that blew my mind as well. But there was just something so musical about Adam's playing on that track, and all the little linear, which is much earlier on in the track, where he comes down in volume with those again and then brings them back up, along with those press rolls, along with that choke cymbal. But doing it in real time, not just doing it, saying to the engineer, can you just fade me down and fade me back up again, please, mate? You know, it's actually doing it in real time. And man, I can't tell you how many things I've borrowed and taken in my playing and used in other styles of music too. Just those little ideas of having that. We've talked about an internal kind of mixing desk, but, you know, just having that ready for different styles, not thinking you just need it for jungle or drum and bass, but having it for everything that you do. You know, I've been tracking something remotely today, actually, at the studio. And just there, again, different nuances that are needed, you know, and all these things they're just so important. But man, and I would say get the whole album. If I could play the whole album to you, I would. There's lots of different flavors on there, some Indian vibes and all sorts of stuff, but great record. So that's that one. So my next choice, I mean, Miles Davis. Wow. I mentioned Miles last time, and of course Tony Williams, you know, idol of mine. This time round I had to pick a tune from the Porgy and Bess album called Gone, and there's a lovely ballad after this called Gone Gone Gone, where he plays some beautiful stuff. And the drummer on this is Philly Joe Jones. He shared the session with Jimmy Cobb, and I think there's a story that goes along with it, but, you know, we don't need to know that tonight. But his playing on this track, I remember my dad playing me this, and poor old dad passed away last year, bless his soul. But I remember him playing this to me in the van, because he had a van at one point, and he used to put it on tape and say, listen to this drumming, you know, listen to this, son. And I remember thinking a bit like, oh, jazz, you know, I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something. And I still wasn't I hadn't found Buddy Rich that moment I said about last time where I saw him on TV. And I used to listen to this, and this stuck with me through all these years. And when I got old enough to appreciate it, I keep coming back to it, because I think it's 2 or 3 minutes of just absolute drumming mayhem, but it's absolutely beautiful. Anyone who's had to play with an orchestra or a big band or a musical with a big band and maybe strings as well knows how difficult that is anyway. But to play something like this, and you look at your chart and you see drum break, stabs, drum break, and try and be creative throughout the whole process. And not just kind of think, right, that awkward stab's coming up on the ER in a minute. Oh, there it is. I better play something simple towards it. Philly Joe's technique was just so good. And I don't know the backstory. Maybe they had a million takes of it. I don't know. And I don't really want to know, because just listening to this always feels like it was a one take. And a lot of this album, Porgy and Bess, you can hear the sort of splices occasionally. And I don't think there is in this one. And he even comes down to the very end, the band finish, and he plays one extra stroke at the end, which I guess is a mistake, but they kept it in because the rest of the take is so spirited and so sparky that you wouldn't want to change it, you know, at all. For anything, for £1 million, maybe £1 million, I don't know. But yeah, it's just wonderful. And there's a bass drum thing that I'll mention now, so I'd have to talk over it too much. There's a little bass drum thing that he does. I mean, there's loads of things he does, but a little bass drum, a 3-note accent, and I've written it down. It's at 0.42, 42 seconds into the track, I believe, and I will point it out just before we get there. But it swings da 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 da, boom 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 da 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 on his bass drum, and I remember my dad used to say, "Man, that is so funky. It's brilliant." And I can't tell you the amount of times within the first 4 bars of a jazz when I'm playing with a jazz soloist and I start the swing up and it's that sort of tempo, within 4 bars I'm going boom, boom, boom on the bass drum, and I always sort of tip my cap when I'm wearing it, like tonight, to Philly, because it's just so funky. I don't mean funky as in not funky in that way, but it's just really, really keen, really mustard, as my dad would say, you know. So listen to his stick strokes, his stick shots, his rim shots, his use of 5-stroke rolls. His technique is just, it's Buddy Rich, but, you know, without the volume. So when you're ready, Jules, let's check it out. Cheeky. Beautiful use of space. Great. Drums down the stairs. Right. It's coming up. Here we go. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Here we go again. Some more cheeky little drum breaks. Check this one. Here we go. Cheeky. And this. That exactly. I said at the same time as you. Oh. And then he comes with that rim click. Just cool, man. You know, I've just given you all that thunder. I'm chilling. Lovely. Yeah. Oh. Get ready. We've got some more drum breaks to the end. They're coming. Again, these next ones are different to the first lot. You'll hear in a second. It's just... Here we go. Get ready for the ending. Just listen for the extra note at the end. Here we go. Boink! And I bet he went, oh no! And Miles might have said, hey, goddamn you. Something Miles might say, but wow. It's like 3 minutes of pure joy. I mean, I would play it again if I could. It's just absolutely wonderful. You know, and it's one of those things that I've not even tried to copy. You know, some guys are probably on YouTube have sat down and transcribed it and played it. It isn't about that for me, this tune. It just makes me smile because everything about it is what I've just mentioned about technique and touch. You know, you can hear that the drums, probably Gretsch, I would have thought, you know, possibly I don't know what was in the studio at the time, because he was always selling his drum kits for things he shouldn't be doing. Yeah, absolutely. You know, that sort of, which I think's missing a lot, I will say, in modern music. Certainly when people are recording jazz. You know, I mean, I love all the ECM stuff and the Blue Note and all the other stuff that comes out. It's fantastic, but you know, I just wish sometimes they would record in the same room and make it sound like they're in the same room. I know the reasons why: isolation. Somebody might get a better take than others, and I totally get it, because I do it myself. But you know, sometimes, excuse me, there's something about just 3 or 4 musicians in a room or whatever playing, and that spill into the microphones. That it's just a glue. You know, I talk to engineers and they say that's the glue that holds the whole thing together sometimes, you know. So the separate booth thing is great, and you can, you know, have your own adjustments and you can do what you like in your own space. But you know, sometimes you listen to something like that, or another great record from that 50s, 60s, and even early 70s period before it all got put into booths, and it just sounds so exciting. And you can see he's not playing too loud, and when he does, the drums really speak. And I should imagine that the engineer every now and again was like, damn him, it's peaking, he said that was as loud as he was going to play. So there's a little tip for you guys: when you're playing and recording, always play at the level you're going to play the track. Don't play sheepishly or play really loud so the engineer says, right, okay, I've got my headroom, and then you come on and you play really quiet. You know, don't do that. Give the sound engineer what he needs. But yeah, I mean, you know, let's hope there's some comments on that last one, because if you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, go and buy it. Download it, but buy the album. And I've got a few Philly Joe albums, of course, you know, and they're all great. But you know what? I mean, and I've got others. You know, you're not here to see my record collection, but I prefer him when he's playing with other people. And I think I was going to raise this point later with Max and some of the other drummers. Certain people, Art Blakey and Max Roach, obviously were very good with their own groups, and it was a different thing. But certain drummers didn't make such good solo records. You know, they're okay. They're kind of like features for the drums, and I get it. But musically, they're not always as sound as when they're playing with other people. And I think this album, Porgy and Bess, and most of the Miles output with Philly Joe, and there's a lot of it, Milestones and all those records. It's just a great place to hear him play, hear his musicality. But yeah, we could get into the 5-stroke rolls, the sort of subdivisions and beat placement he puts in, and the space. Oh my goodness, there's one of those before the second time it swings where there's just so much space in it, and you're not sure where he's going to come out, and then he does the da 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 da, and he comes up with the band, and it's wonderful. It just, yeah, I can't talk enough good things about that. But if you want to know how to play cheeky little drum breaks and use space, then go back to Gone and check it out, because, yeah, unbelievable. Okay, so let's move on to our next one. Okay, so Max Roach. I mean, what a legend. I mean, again, I've got this album here. I'm sure most of you have got this, Drums Unlimited. It's the first time that I sort of heard him play some of his solo drum stuff. And they're not really solos, are they? They're pieces of music. And again, I was quite young when I heard it, and I didn't get it for a while. You know, drum also waltzes and all those things. I just didn't figure it. I was a bit like, okay. And of course, the older I got and more experienced, I realised the master of linear playing, and again, his touch on the drums, you know. And I started to watch other clips with and other records it would have been at the time, where he was playing with strings, and playing with Abbey Lincoln, the Freedom Now suite, which is just incredible. But the way he was using the drums, what I wanted to talk about was the way he was using the drums as a solo instrument. You know, so we've got people that do drum clinics, you know, I do drum, we all do them, and it's great, you know, and you see people play and other people, you know, it's very subjective, but the drummers that really connect to me, I realised, were the ones that were kind of telling a story. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've learned a few chops and, you know, a few like whiz bangs to make people go, woo, as we have to, because there are people in the audience that want that. But the kind of drummers that really excite me, I realised probably about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, were the ones that can tell stories without the band being with them. Now, I know some people call this a bit pompous and pretentious. Drums should be played with other musicians. And again, I get that. You know, that's fine. We're an accompanying instrument. But we have got the ability to be a soloist. And I mean, in a way as well, where it's not just, here's my solo I'm going to play. That's one thing. But where you say, right, this is a piece called, I don't know, anything you like. You know, Paddington Bear goes to, I don't know, Australia. And you sit down and you tell a story and you create a mood. And I found that I like that. And for the people who thought it was pretentious and think, you know, it's like, okay, I'm old enough now not to work. That's a nice opinion. Great. But I'm happy to look at the drums and try and compose on the drums in a way that's going to connect not only to drummers, but, you know, I used to set a challenge to myself. If there was a person at the bar, I was on a jazz or blues gig, and they weren't really that fussed about the music, and I had some kind of moment, whether it was a groove thing or a solo thing, try and make them turn round. Try and make them feel the music. And I don't just mean by hitting it really hard and going, oi! I mean actually musically, try and get their foot tap in. Because I've got this weird thing, and most people say, well, go and play a guitar, Rob, then. Go and play a piano. Drums are drums. You know, if you want to play a sad melodic thing, play a melody instrument. Don't play the drums, you Wally. But this is my quest, you see. Because I do that with all the people I work with. The names underneath my name, like Loreena and Siouxsie and Simple Minds and all the people I've worked with, you know, I'm playing their songs and I'm very thankful. And that's given me a career, and I love doing that. And I would never want to change that. The camaraderie, the things I've learned playing music is just untold, as I'm sure a lot of you out there will know. And we're missing our friends and musicians now, you know, and the audience watching us or booing us, whichever way round. You know, it's just terrible. But, you know, I realised that I wanted to keep it on the drums, even just a 4-piece jazz kit. How can I make someone in the audience feel that I'm sad on my drum kit? How can I make them feel that I'm angry? How can I make them feel that I'm in love? How can they, you know, all these things, which, again, on a non-melody instrument is so hard until you start thinking, what if I pick up mallets and play mallets with my snare off on the toms, cymbal rolls? Ooh, that's like Mystique. I could play sort of free time on the toms with the mallets, and then suddenly play something big that makes people go, whoa, and then bring them back in again. You know, all this kind of composition is what I fill my days with. That's why I've got no friends. No, I'm joking. And I just find it a challenge. And I would say to you guys listening, if you're not into that, fair enough, I get that, and I'll move on to something else in a minute. But if you are into that, keep going with it. It's kind of almost like a free jazz thing, in a way. Dare I say the F and the J word, free jazz. But, you know, it's that kind of thing of letting yourself just play the drums, play your emotion on the drum set. And that's why I have a soft spot for kind of free jazz, you know, because I like to play in, and I've got the pocket and I've got the technique and I've learned that stuff. But now, as I'm getting older, I'm liking the freedom of letting that rip and saying, okay, I know I'm in the box, but now I want to get out. And John Coltrane, we could list loads of musicians that did that. Ornette Coleman, loads of players. But the important thing is you learn to play inside the box, learn the rules. For us, rudiments, timing, blah, 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 you know, the styles. And as I was saying earlier, then just play music, you know, incredible. And when I found this song, this piece, Max Roach, playing over probably the most famous Martin Luther King speech ever, I was almost moved to tears at the time because, as I say, I was struggling to find how the drums could express themselves. And I'd already tampered with samples and voices with the drum solo, and a few things that were a bit rude as well on drum solos. And I thought it was fairly arty. And I was doing it in pubs and clubs around Bath and Bristol, and I was enjoying it. And I thought, not that I was the only one, but I'd not heard anyone do it. And then I heard this. And the way he composes his solo underneath Martin Luther King's speech. And it does go on into a track, but I think the bit we're playing is just the drums and voice. And it's just another way of expressing yourself. And if you've never tried this and you've got an SPDS at home, or you could record something on GarageBand, try playing along with it. You know, if there's a speech, try and, if things get crazy, you get crazy, follow it. For some of my pupils, I sometimes put on a little bit of a James Bond film. It's Skyfall, the train scene, and they're going over the top. I think they're in Turkey, of the Grand Bazaar. And I say, I'm turning the volume down, play for me what you see. And they're like, oh, he's on a bike. Right, yeah. Come on then, let's hear it. What's happening? And he's dropping and boom, back in. Yeah. And it's incredible what you can get out of yourself when you challenge yourself in this way. So I'm not going to talk at all through this one. And it's kind of apt, isn't it, over the last few months, this track anyway. So if you could lay it on us, please, Jules, that would be great.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. My country tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims cry. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring.
Yeah. Breaking free. Beautiful. That's a moment. Seize the moment. Joy, excitement, anger, grief. It's all in there. You just have to look.
When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Wow. Oh, I'm tearing up now, actually. Oh. Just you know, I know some people, I've played that to some people and they go, well, I don't get it. And that, again, that's totally cool. Music's about being subjective and liking things or not, you know, and that's totally fine. And something else will, you know, light the fire for you. But for me, the idea of, if you think of every culture, drums and voices, singing, goes way back. Stone Age man and woman, it goes right back, you know, to... People say that the harpsichord and the piano is the oldest instrument, but drums is the oldest instrument, the oldest form of communication. You know, are you in? Yes, I am. Are you out? No. Whatever, you know, it's that. And I think that primal instinct, sorry if I banged the table and it came through the mic, it's probably quite loud, wasn't it? But that primal instinct is in all of us drummers. And I think no matter... Certainly with my students, as I say, I will do this test where I put something on and say, play to it. You know, this thing of being able to react to stuff and play emotions and feelings and colours, that's a whole nother thing. But colours as well, I'm completely fascinated by it. I'm not saying you throw away the Rudiment books and say, hey, I'm free drummer now. That, you know, that's not what I'm saying. This is just a part of, you know, a musical character and personality, which I'm constantly working on. And I've actually spoken to Don Lombardi at DW about maybe doing like a drum channel some lessons or a show on it, because and he's into the idea, but I just need to get it together, because at the moment there's just a few concepts I need to sort out. In my head it makes sense and I could perform it, but I need to put it into some context so people can learn it and take it away. But it's just the idea of your drums reacting to what you're hearing, not just in a musical way, that's the most important way, but when you're in the practice room. For instance, the next time, I'll challenge you all then, the next time you go to your practice room, when you can, I know probably this isn't the right thing to say because everyone's going, I can't do it. Right, but let's imagine the next time you go into your practice room and you're not with the band and you're just going to play, obviously warm up first, that's good, but then just play anything. You know, if you've had a bill through the door and it makes you angry, respond to that. You know, or if you've had a really great day and someone smiled at you and you feel really good, then try and let that come out in your drumming, because I think the more you can get inside how you're feeling and express it through your drums, then, you know, I think it's good. So when someone says drummers just go, absolutely, Mr. Lindsay McDonald. Yeah, exactly. The primalistic is so important and we have to listen to that. And it can come out in complex ways, you know, multi-foot patterns, that could be it, or it could be just 2 and 4 on the snare drum, just a nice punk rhythm, you know, whatever. But it's just an interesting concept. And when I discovered Max was on that road long ago, you know, it just kind of really turned me on, and it was just like, my goodness, there's another way of looking at drums, where I was at that age, maybe 15, 16, when I was sort of discovering that for the first time. I never really understood it, as I say, till later, or tried to get it. It was just like, oh, Max is that drummer that does that thing. And then later it just got deeper, and I found the Freedom Now suite, because obviously there was a lot of campaigning he was doing with his wife Abby Lincoln, and that record's really strong too. And there's some times where, you know, she really is doing the primal scream, a bit like Yoko Ono, and he's playing underneath, and it's just intense. And yeah, I think it's wonderful. So yeah, there's just another side of my playing, which I didn't get to last time. That's why I wanted to make these a little bit different to some of the more commercial stuff that I gave you last time. So the whole album isn't like that, though. It's more kind of, well, not straight ahead, but just a jazz record. But anyway, interesting concept. There's lots of things you could do with just you and a drum kit, and mood, brushes and sticks, playing with your hands. Yeah, there you go. You're right, my man. Yeah, he did. And I kind of likened and dislike that comment at the same time, because, you know, there's nothing worse than going to a party and you say to someone you're a drummer and people go, oh, you're not a musician then. That kind of drummer gag thing. And, you know, it's like, well, yeah, I am. I could be arty. I could play as delicately as a violinist, but of course they just see us as this. But yeah, I totally get it. And it does feel good to let it go. And when I worked in a drum shop, I used to occasionally, when I wasn't working on the wholesale side, I was working actually on the shop floor. So now and again, people would come in and there'd be doctors or lawyers, and they'd buy like the most expensive drum kit. And I'd quiz them about, oh yeah, how long have you been playing? They're like, well, when I take this drum kit out, about 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? And they say, yeah, I just want one to play on, just to let my frustrations out. And man, I totally get that. And like you say, that's another instinct that you shouldn't fight. So, hey, Neil was, you know, coming from different areas there. I get what he did there. Very nice. Very good. Okay, so that's that. And I'm still working on these kind of concepts. But anyway, another thing that kind of leads on from that is, once again, my good friend Gary Bamford, and also bass player friend of mine called Ralph Dorrell. I call him Dorrell because it annoys him. But Ralph Dorrell, great bass player, lecturer, teacher, and euphonium player and trombone and God knows what else. But again, as I was discovering, there was bits missing in my percussion kind of, I don't know, in my world, there was bits that weren't fulfilled. And kind of this kind of drumming, the Max Roach thing, the solo drumming, performing with a beginning, a middle and an end that people can latch onto when you come back to it, and they can see a journey, and it's almost like a 3-minute song, but just in rhythm and stuff, and vibes and dynamics. There was still something missing. And Gary and Ralph actually somehow came together on this at the same time and sent me some CDs. They said, look, if you're into, you know, space minimalistic music, then you should listen to Philip Glass and Steve Reich, or Steve Reich, which have a way around you want to say it. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm game, whatever. Send me some stuff. So I remember getting these CDs, and at the time I was doing a lot of driving, so hour and a half between commutes, and I'd put these CDs on, and I remember putting this one on, and it was just one of those things, you know, clearly I drove correctly and safely because I got to where I needed to go, but I don't even remember getting there. this, if you could just load it up, please, Jules. Thank you. This is, it's actually called Music for Mallet Instruments, Voices and Organ. And there's another one, which I had to write down because I always forget it. There's also one called Variations for Wind, Strings and Keyboards, which is beautiful as well. Now, this is a very long piece. I'm not going to play it all. But there's no drums in it, actually, on this track we're going to listen to. Because a lot of the time when people say, what's in your car? What are you listening to? A lot of the time I'll listen to stuff without any drums because I'm doing that all the time. And sometimes I just don't want to listen to it. So when I found the minimalistic music, it was percussive because there's a piece called Six Pianos, which is highly percussive and things go out of phase. It's just amazing art form that Steve Reich and various other people were working on at the time. Very arty, but it's just, and he was a drummer himself, so it was just amazing. And I thought, well, I can hear in music like this and other pieces like it, I can hear the drums in it. I'm composing a part in my head as I'm listening to it without actually having to listen to a drummer, which I'm not being rude, but you just don't need it. So there was that whole thing going on, but there was also with a piece like this, and we'll go through various sections because it's like, I don't know, 30 minutes long or 20 minutes long. There's subtle changes, and minimalistic music doesn't suit everybody. But I realised when I delved a bit deeper, the reason I liked a lot of synth pop with very basic lines that only might change, you know, like maybe dear old Gary Newman here, stuff like that. Why I was enjoying it so much was because these subtle changes were happening, and it's more about the sound and the sort of timbre of the instrument and things like that, rather than a really complicated change or something. And these subtle musical shifts in timing and subdivisions and just notes and on the marimbas and stuff, it was just beautiful. And the glockenspiel playing high notes, and it just blew me away. And it's inspired my drumming in thinking about drum parts. Like when I had my Lynn drum here last time, talking about how Prince used to mess about with the fade up of the hi-hat and moving that around and moving different parts of the drum kit so it wasn't your obvious beat. This kind of was doing it for me in a more sort of arty way. But yeah, let's listen to it, and I'll skip through various parts, but check it out. Beautiful piece of music. I mean, already it's grooving. Ready for the first change in a minute? The organ. It's coming up. That subtle change. Longer notes. And you could pick up on any one bit of this piece. You could pick up on the, or the Glock playing single note. Now it's picked. Take it, do good, take it. So there's subtle changes behind just the organ as well. There's other things changing now. Then that's the featured part. The Glock part. Jules, could you skip it up to 5 minutes 40, please? 5:40, because as you can see, it's 17 minutes long or something. So it's a long old piece. But this is the change. So it was a good 4 or 5 minutes to get to this point. But again, all the way through, there's the subtle changes that when they happen, it's just like release, you know? It's beautiful. And it's not like, oh, thank God we've got to that bit. It's just like the tension. And the voices. The voices are in now as well. And on one piece called Music for 18 Musicians, they have to bring the microphone across. So they go, it's like written that they have to do that. And it sounds amazing. I saw that at the Royal Festival Hall with him playing one of the piano parts. Phenomenal. I mean, you can imagine grooving. You could solo over this. You could groove. There's so many things you could do to this. If you wanted to. Blast beat. Could you scoot forward, please, Jules, to 9:40 for the next little change? Thank you. Somewhere around there, that's perfect. Ooh. There's like a deep groove. You could cut this so many ways on drums. But you see what I mean? You can hear the drums even though they're not there. It's so percussive, obviously, because of the instruments. But you know what I mean? You could join the dots anyway between what you're hearing. Excuse me. It doesn't sound like, to me, it just sounds like angelic voices. It just sounds like, especially when you hear those 16 minutes, it's quite an overpowering experience. Again, on the first listen, you might think, oh, boring. Can you turn that off? Maybe sit down with a glass of water or whatever your thing is. Just put it on without your phone being on, and just listen to it. Let it play through. Let it play through, because you might find something in it that you really, really like. And minimalistic music, I think, is wonderful for just allowing the other side of your musical personality to come out and shine. Something different in there for everybody. Okay, and if you could skip forward these, Jules, to 14:45. My goodness, they must be very tired because they haven't stopped. These people are playing all the way through, pretty much. And this is the outro. Very pretty little. The Glock playing a pretty little part. And you could pick on just that marimba. That could be that part that you, and then when you hear him or her change, it's like, whoa, but then something else has happened along the top. That's what I love about it. It's so multi-layered. It's beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. Genius writing and playing. God, playing that. Really difficult. Voices back in. I find it so inspiring listening to this music. I can just hear other music within it. As I say, without the restraint of the drums, which is what we all know, you know, holding it back. You're kind of hearing drums in the other musical instruments. It's all there. The groove is being kept away from a bass snare and a hi-hat. Yay! Yeah. Wonderful. And the one variations for wind, strings and keyboards has got obviously a bit of percussion, but not really. It's all strings and I guess piano's in it somewhere, but it's just beautiful. The way that changes as well is a lot like this, but it's with strings and stuff, so it's a lot more subtle, less aggressive. But yeah, I think we could fade that one out, Jules, if you like. Yeah, it goes on forever. But yeah, my goodness. Anyone out there into that minimalistic stuff? Because I know I saw a documentary on Steve Reich, and there was a lot of people on there from you know, like Prodigy and bands like that, you know, that were saying, and William Orbit was on there, and Orbital, that's who it was, and other people on there saying, my God, he's a legend, you know, I got it from this, and he was on there saying that he hung around, you know, the Village back in the day in New York, and was into jazz and loved the Coltrane. again, he loved playing in the box and he was composing stuff, but he also liked playing outside the box because that's what those cats were doing, as they say in New York. They don't say it in Corsham, where I'm from. They say, that drummer, he plays like that. But yeah, amazing. And he wanted to do it a different way. And another thing he did was he messed with tape machines, reel to reels. And he would just have, there's a famous one, it gonna rain, it gonna rain, it gonna rain, and it goes on for ages. And they're both saying the same thing, and eventually they go out of whack with each other, out of phase. And then they come back round again at some point. And that's a little bit hard to listen to. But again, I just find that an amazing concept, because I knew people were doing that in the 60s, and I know even a commercial band like the Beatles got on board with that, with Tomorrow Never Knows on Revolver, which is an amazing piece of art. And that's another one that I lay on people, because I don't like the Beatles, and I shove that on. They go, oh, this is great, this is the Chemical Brothers. I go, no, it's not. It's the Beatles. And the song before it was Got to Get You Into My Life, which is, what it is. And then this comes on, and it's like 40 years into the future. How they did that, God only knows. But it was all tape machines on that, and Ringo just playing a tough drum part that was like a rave drum beat. It was like boom, gaga, boom, 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 but we digress. So yeah, minimalistic music. Do a little search on Apple or Spotify. But hopefully you guys can see what I meant about you can hear the drums within it, because the rhythm is so strong, because he understands rhythm. He's composing for that. And funny enough, people say you must like clapping music and drumming and all that. And actually the ones he's done that have been more drummy, I don't actually enjoy as much as the string and mallet ones, actually. Electric Counterpoint is another amazing one as well. And I did something kind of inspired. I had 2 Linn drums. I've only got one now, but I had 2 Linn drums, and I programmed them the same. Because they're analog, they don't run completely in time either. Like, it's analog, it's not digital. So I would program the same part, and I pressed play on both of the machines at the same time, and they would stay together, and then they would eventually start going out. And I recorded it, and I'll have to find it and put it on Facebook and YouTube and all my Instagram, whatever. And that was amazing. And I was going to do like an arty thing at a clinic where I was going to let that happen and then start playing over the top, but I think someone said that was going too far. But I wish I'd done it now, because someone else will do it one day and it'll be really cool, and it should have been me. Okay, cool, there we go. So that's that. So there's Steve Reich. This next record is another one influenced by my dear old dad. He had it on 8-track that was like, for me at that age, was like the size of a house brick. I remember him shoving it into again in his van. This is a bit earlier than the tape machine. Whacking it in. It sounded like he was going to break it. It's like, goo, 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 goo. Anyway, and then this thing come on, and he would drive to work, and I'd listen to this thing, and I'd be like, this is weird. This is like not a 2-3 minute pop song, because I probably would have been, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, around there somewhere, listening to my Gary Newman and Beatles and all the stuff I said I was into last time, early on, before I found jazz and other stuff. And this was going in different ways. This was going, 1 minute it was like funky, then it was basically in movements, like a suite, basically. And I'd never heard that, and I thought, this is crazy. Well, where's the singing? Then eventually some singing come in. I was like, oh, fantastic. And it really opened me up to the sort of dynamics of a piece of music, what it can have, and it wasn't classical. This was, this is Johnny Harris, who I think went on to live in America, and I think he was an MD for Paul Anka or something, but I think he was a session guy in England. Again, I don't know an awful lot about him, but I just love this record. I know he made other ones. And it wasn't until a little bit later when I was reading, and of course, in true Rob fashion, I do have the record, I think, somewhere. Yes, there it is. Yes. I don't know if that's Johnny or not. I don't know. But who can tell? But I remember looking at the back cover, and I was like, you do, and you smell the record and all that, and it was a wonderful thing. And I was reading it, and all of a sudden it said, and at this point, by the way, I had discovered a little bit about prog rock. I wasn't listening to it, but my friends were. If I had been, I would have known about the elongated songs, you see, and I didn't. But one day I was at my friend's house, and I was looking at this, which I'm not going to play any of, but it's Fragile by Yes. And really stupid. I wasn't taking any notice of it. But I was looking at the sleeve notes, and some of the band members on that were on this. And I was like, blimey. The drummer wasn't Bill Bruford, it was Alan White. But I realised that he'd played on Imagine by John Lennon, because my mum or dad had that record, that album. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this kind of semi-classically, I don't know what it was, sounded like it could be on something on BBC Two, like the Two Ronnies or something, like a theme tune that went to all these different things. It had all those prog rock players. Wow. So then, of course, I went back and I learned about Yes, thank goodness, and that was a good thing. Maybe for another day we'll talk about Yes. Bill Bruford and, King Crimson, all that stuff, ELP. But yeah, so I checked this album out and it's like, my God. So I went back and put it on a record player and that had a whole new meaning for me, because Steve Howe's on it, John Anderson's on it, Chris Squire is on it, and Alan White. So it's basically the Yes rhythm section. I don't know if Rick Wakeman's on it. I've got my glasses, but I can't see. He might be. I don't know. But anyway, and I want you to listen to this. We won't listen to the whole thing again because it's 14 minutes long. And I've got some timings. But listen to Alan White's playing. The first section is very, very funky. It's that wonderful thing of band with strings and horn section. I mean, you can't beat it. Hopefully they did it all together in the same room. I'd like to think. Again, I don't know for sure. But this 70s period made some, and 60s, but made some great records with that sound, with everyone in the same room, and it is just killing. And the drum fill at the start of this, and the one that I'll quickly interrupt when it comes up, is just wonderful too. So if you've never heard Alan White do anything else but Roundabout or Close to the Edge, then check this out. Thanks, Jules. Alan White in the house. And this? Funky. What's that? Fender Rhodes or Whirly with effect on it? Yes, they're funky, man. Check out these horns. Great synths. Here comes Alan White. Check him out. That bass. Woo! Just great play, man. I agree. Alan White is superb. Those strings. Oh, man. Just beautiful. The production of the 70s stuff is, I always think it's a bit eerie as well. There's something eerie about 70s music like this. I can't put my finger on it. It's like something, if you know that film Suspiria, and the 70s, 60s was all bright and shiny, and the 70s was kind of dark. You know, the horror films were darker. Everything was darker. There was a lot of weird stuff, weird TV shows. People were going into that kind of vibe. And this music's got a little bit of that about it. Bass. And these voices here. Great. Could you pop forward, please, Jules, to 518? And we'll see Mr. John Anderson raises his lovely hair-down voice. So this is a bit more Yes at this point. Here we go. How many toms? All of them. Yeah, this is rocking out though. He's taking no prisoners. And these strings. Oh. This could be pads, possibly. Not sure. Sound pretty real to me. Yeah, they are. They're real. Okay, and if you could pop it to 9:15, please, Jules. And that kind of does its thing, and then John comes back in, but we've kind of heard that bit, more odd time stuff, and it breaks down to some dramatic stuff. And then at 9:15 is oof. Total different shift here. And that bass sound, man, bass sounds of the 70s, man, killer. Quietly cool. And I love his sax, as if he's just running late for the gig. I'm here, lads. It's a bit like that. Because you hear him off mic, he's going, roop, roop, but we missed that bit. If you listen back, you'll hear he's like in a different room warming up. It's really weird. Anyway, he's in. And he's way off. It's brilliant. Here we go. Digging that bell, man. He lays into that bell of that ride. I mean, if you've ever played with a big band, yeah, there's a few changes, Jerry. Actually, Imagine is on it, actually. And there's a few, Pavan is on there, classical piece. But this is killer. It's worth it. The whole album is worth it just for this one track. If you could just chuck it to 12:30, please, Jules, that'd be lovely. And believe it or not, there's another breakdown and then another section. This is our big ending. Strings, oh, break your heart. Oh. It's like Love Story or something. Just so of the time. But listen to that band. Oh, beautiful. And we're whipping it up to the end. Alan's behind them all the way. Here we go. Just so powerful. I mean, if you've ever played with a band and had to drive them along, you know how difficult it is to play with strings. They're always legato anyway, and horns are always on the beat. And if you've got a conductor at the front, it's like, my goodness, you know. Thankfully, it's all on click track these days, and they're just there to guide you through. But back in the day, it was different, man. Here we go. It's worth just playing it out just for the drama, if that's all right. Because we're nearly there. Me too. I mean, there was I realised there's a guy called David Axelrod as well. David Axelrod is amazing. He was a drummer too, I believe. And he made lots of albums with a funk band. Sorry, I talked over the ending. And this album, Song of Innocence, is one, and there are others. And one of the rappers, I can't think who it was, sampled one of his songs and made it a big hit, and I've forgotten who it is in true dad style. God, who was it? Anyway, but David Axelrod was doing the same thing. You know, big arrangements, but with a commercial music sensibility and understanding funk and stuff, as well as, you know, classical and jazz. And he would, I mean, this album is just full of stuff that is just amazing. It takes you on a real journey. I think Grady Tate's on drums as well. He's a great drummer, and he's laying down sort of quaver grooves. And again, it's a little bit eerie in places and a bit kind of 007 in places, but it's got that 70s thing about it. And, you know, the reason I wanted to lay these on you, again, it's a different way of thinking about how your drum part has to go through. A bit like, you know, Neil Peart, we've mentioned him already, you know, a bit like Bill Bruford had to do. Any drummer that says, right, so basically, how far have I got to go? Most songs, people go, right, from here to that door. You go, okay. But with that sort of music, it's right, from here, you go out the door, you turn left, you turn right, then stay there for 5 minutes, but don't do anything, then stand up again, go straight on, turn left, get on a bus, you know what I'm saying. And to keep energy up that amount of time, think about all your different parts. You know, the next time someone takes the mick out of a prog rock band, man, you know, like, wear their shoes. It's a whole different thing. And as I say, yes, and that album specifically, I still put it on when I'm cooking and stuff, you know, and I still get a bit teary when I hear it. Obviously, it's dad involvement, and also my mum too, because mum thankfully is still with us. But you know, she used to hate it probably. But every Sunday morning he'd play it in the house and stuff like that. You know, and you know the sort of musical education I got from listening to those tracks, you don't find out till years later. So I thank Alan White not only for his prog rock drumming, but his drumming on that record, because he comes out of the stocks, then he holds back, then he's back in again, he's getting involved, you know, and he's creating mood with the sound when it drops down. Just wonderful. So yeah, check out David Axelrod, genius, and also check out Johnny Harris. And there's a label in I can't find it now. Oh, Studio to Stereo, which was basically a label in England that released lots of records for stereo, to promote stereo. And of course they're recorded beautifully, so you would go out and buy a stereo unit. And some of that stuff is amazing. Some of it's really cheesy, but some of it is fantastic. The way it's recorded, of course, because they wanted you to buy stereo phonograms, whatever. But the music is a lot like this. So I've got a few that are kind of like this and a bit Doctor Who-ish. And anyway, we should move on. We've got to go and have our teas and stuff, haven't we? Right, the next one. The Mighty Two. Now, I am a fan. Oh, actually, there's that one as well. Herbie Hancock, Manchild. Everyone goes on about other albums of his, but that one's a killer as well. Another great instrumental record. People go on about drum battle records, but this isn't really a drum battle. Now, I was talking to a student the other day. I've got a different cover. I've got the French cover, and I'm such a drum nerd. I'm really excited about that. But again, this is one I bought with my mum, bless her. We went to Bath, which is the nearest town or city to here, and I bought this, and I was so excited, and I got it home. And again, it's only a couple of years ago I didn't realise how much of an influence this was on my playing, because yes, they have a little moment together, Louis and Jean, and they play up, but it's very respectful. No one tries to drum someone else out of the park. You know, it's all done in the nicest possible way. And to be honest, how could you not like an album that is, one tune's called Three Drags, one's called the Paradiddle Song, one's called The Accent of Flamboyance, Rolls a la Bossa Nova, and Ratimakees. Basically, I thought it was so cool because they were actually playing the Rudiments, and the band had to play. The heads are a bit cheesy, but you know, everything else I was listening to was drum solo, drum solo, drum solo, drum solo, drum battle with a bit of band stuff. But these guys thought about it and said, no, what does a drag sound like? Let's write a tune that sounds like it could be played with a drag. And it's just really cool. So let's hear it, and then I'll just wax on about it in a second. If you could hear it, please, Jules, that would be ace. And it's recorded really well, this record, as well, for the time. Oh. Yeah. Beautiful. Lovely opening statement. Here comes Jean. Yeah. Nothing says I've finished better than a pang cymbal. So musical. And again, Gene's keeping the hi-hat going, and there's a groove to each of their breaks. It's like funky. It's almost like a hip-hop groove, man. Chicago style. It's all about the rim shots, man. Get close to that rim of that drum. Yeah, God, G. The godfather of all drumming. Beautiful. Doom, 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 doom. Love it. Love it. playing together, literally. They're not trying to outdo each other. Getting ready for the ending. Yeah! Bravo! So that album is worth checking, just because that concept of a rudiment, and I'm going to play it through. So, of course, when I was learning my rudiments, I was thinking, blimey, this is really good. So at 10 years of age, I could listen to these guys playing it, and I was nowhere near it, but I could practice. And I realised that every Christmas, I used to make a little tape, like a TDK cassette, and I thought I could play guitar and sing, which I still can't do either. Yeah, I can't. There's no point trying to deny it. And I used to write little drum pieces, again, which kind of goes back to what I was eventually going to get to through Max Roach and expressing myself on the drums, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I used to start writing, and I found some the other day, manuscript of my scrawled handwriting, trying to write mini pieces based around rudiments. And it was all going back to that record. So, one, check it out. It's a great record. Lovely playing on it. Two, check it out for the fact it's the only one I know where they actually swung the rudiments and made it kind of slightly informative, as well as a kind of, well, me and him will go at it occasionally, but it's not going to be like, you know, like maybe Max and Buddy or something, which is still a great record, obviously, but just a different thing. So there you go. So anyone out there got that record? Obviously not. But if you... I mean, you can download them now, can't you? But it's not the same. Go to your local record shop and buy one when you can, or order one online. Because I've just bought a new record deck, so I'm over the moon. So I can actually now play some vinyl. Hence why I've got it all behind me. So there we have it. Yes, I was happy. It's about time I had my vinyl back out and annoying my neighbours with David Bowie or whatever I care to shove on late at night, or Deep Purple maybe. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to wrap up there, I think. Some very different concepts in this one. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody through it. But the last one I thought was kind of full-on drummy stuff with different people that you'll be aware of, but Gabriel and Prince and Average White Band and whoever else there was. I wanted this one to be more of a conceptual thing because that's another part of my playing and it's my show. So I thought I would share that side of my drumming personality with you. And of course, if you want to contact me, there'll be some Instagram stuff coming up in a minute, and you can always email me, and I will get back to you. Some people did after the last one, so thank you, and joined up on my Facebook and all sorts, and yeah, that went up tenfold, so that was lovely. And please ask me any questions, and be sure to check out the other stuff that I'm doing. I will be back on the road with Loreena McKennitt next year. Fingers crossed, you know. But yeah, so please ask me any questions, and just thanks for tuning in. And next week, you're very lucky because you've got Cora Coleman, who's an unbelievable drummer. And I saw her at the O2. Guess with who? Prince, of course. When he did that 21 nights at the O2 in London a few years ago, which was phenomenal. I went to about 5 of them. And she was on drums. And, you know, she had a lot to put up with Bobby Z and Sheila E., Michael B, anybody with a short name, and of course John Blackwell, and she came in strong. She played those songs, killed them, brilliant. So check her out. She's gonna have a lot of, and she played with Beyonce and loads of people. So thanks again, guys. You're amazing. Thank you to Jules, Kevin, and Don Lombardi, Garrison, everybody at DW. You look after me so well, and I'm so thankful to have you guys on my side. You make my job a whole lot easier. So thank you so much. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Happy lockdown. Be good, and I'll see you on the other side.